Hi guys, and welcome back to the podcast. Another episode.
Yeah.
Another episode on recovery, but not recovery,
Injury.
but more injury. Recovering from injury. So last week I think we spoke about what you can do whilst whilst you've got an injury, if you've sustained an injury and you're still currently injured. So making sure you're maintaining your skills, making sure you're staying as fit as possible, so that when you come back into the sport, you've not got a big journey ahead of you. Obviously that depends on how long your injuries are and how badly they put you out. But this week we're going to talk about more the psychological side returning from injury. Yeah. You had a pretty bad injury, didn't you? We spoke last week.
A few.
Yeah.
I think the things that I kind of want to touch on in this episode are the pressures of you returning, not only on yourself but from your coaches. Because I've had it a couple of times where my coaches have put pressure on me to return.
Yeah.
Like when I've had a decent time off, and I've one time I came back too early, and then the other times have been okay in the end, but it's still quite a pressure, if you're...
So where are you feeling this pressure? What, verbal pressure or just
verbal, as well as just situational pressure as well.
Go on,
so
elaborate.
For example, not recently, but I was playing for a side who, in my position, there wasn't really anyone who was solid in that position.
So they wanted you back.
So they didn't necessarily even verbally say, Max when you fit, Max when you fit, Max when you fit, but more we're part of a team and I wanted to be,
and everyone knew that position wasn't being
filled.
Yeah,
to its
effectively.
Potential. Yeah.
So you felt the pressure from the team because you knew they weren't performing as best.
Yeah.
You wanted to be a part of that team.
Yeah. And then I've also had it where the manager every week is like, when are you back? When are you back? Can you play this week?
Yeah.
I've had that quite a few times.
And you can completely understand it from their point of view because they want the best out of their team, but surely for the longevity of the team, you want your players to come back when they are ready to come back, not because they're trying to rush things, because it's only going to get worse. You see some international players, they have a horrific injury and they're back on the field in 6 weeks, and you're like, fair enough, they've probably got the best of the best physios, they've had all the immediate care straight after their injury, so that ongoing damage doesn't happen.
They haven't had to wait for NHS
and scans and things like that. Yeah,
and all that crap.
However, your body is still only your body, and it can only recover as fast as it can recover. Yes, there's lots of different techniques which can accelerate that recovery, but surely, when you see people do their knees, and I know mates wise, people that have done their knees and ankles, breakages and things like that, they're out for almost a year, if not a year. And then you see some of the professional players getting back within months.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
The difference in just how you recover, bearing in mind, if you're in a professional outfit, you're getting paid to return from injury.
And I suppose there's that pressure as well. If it is your job, or if you're playing for a semi-pro side and you're contracted and they're paying you.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because if you're full time, you're on a salary, and obviously, yes, it's in your best interest to get back quickly anyway, because otherwise they're not going to re-sign you.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it's kind of like it's your job to get fit as well. Whereas if you're, for example, I don't know what yours is like, but I'm on a pay per play contract.
Yeah.
So if I'm injured, I don't get paid. I mean,
so that's more of a semi-pro sort of thing, isn't it? It's a pay per play, but there will be those contracted players that are probably playing championship or even premiership. So we're talking professional levels, which will be contracted. There's probably, I don't know, that's more, I would say, managerial pressure.
Yeah.
Because they want you to get back for them because they're paying you on a weekly basis and you're not playing. But then I suppose on a semi-pro level, if you are being paid and you're relying on that wage, there's that financial pressure to get back on the field because it's your income.
Yeah. I think
Never had that struggle, to be honest, mate. Never been good enough to be paid. They normally pay me to leave.
It's. I mean, to be honest, I've never. It completely depends on the situation, I suppose. With that pressure of, you know, if you don't play, you don't get paid. I personally see rugby, like, in my own head, I think it's silly that I get paid because I see it as a hobby and I do it because I enjoy it.
Yeah.
And the fact that I get paid for it's kind of...
It's a Brucey bonus.
It's just a bonus. And to be honest, that money, I didn't rely on that money. I just chucked that straight into a savings account or whatever.
On the booze.
Or on booze, yeah. So in terms of, like, I don't financially rely on it. Nor should you really, because it's not sustainable.
No, it's not.
Whatever.
And equally, you do have an expiry date as a player, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, you're only ever going to play your best up to a certain age, and then eventually your playing career will end, whether that is through an injury, or whether it's through retirement. But I agree. So there's obviously those pressures from manager, from yourself, and things like that. But what else? What other topics did you really want?
I think. Right, for me, most recently, I got syndesmosis in my left ankle, which is where your tibia and fibula split apart, and there's like ligaments and tendons and stuff that are wrapped around your tib and fib, which are strained and torn or whatever. So I had those two split apart. You know?
Just choking on something. Yeah, well, actually.
Yeah, cool. And that was my injury, which is. You kind of...
That's lovely. Brewdog, if you ever want to sponsor us.
Planet Pale Ale.
Nice.
But yeah, that was... I'd had it done in my right ankle before, which was really bad, which still affects me now when I wake up from sleep. My ankle really...
When you wake up from sleep?
Yeah. But yeah, my left ankle I did more recently, and I was coming back from that. We had 2 pre-season games. And I wasn't, like, in hindsight, I wasn't ready for them.
Yeah.
I was strapping my ankle up and stuff, but it just, I couldn't get to my top speed. And it just didn't feel very nice whatsoever. But that was pressure that I'd put on myself. Because I wanted to obviously play in those pre-season games to earn my stripes, to earn my shirt to play the start of the season. And
I completely get that. As a new player so we both joined new clubs this season. Not sure if we've already said, but for my club, I've currently got 2 basically hand injuries. But prior to that, I had another hand injury, and I shouldn't have trained because it wasn't going to make me fit for the weekend, and I did, and it still wasn't right. And then there's that pressure that you want to play to look good, so you're playing well, and obviously impressing the coach, so you're getting a more regular start. However, if you're partially injured and you're trying to play with an injury, you're not going to be playing to your full potential. So actually, it's doing yourself a disservice, because yes, you might think, oh, I'm going to look good because I'm playing, but you're not, because you're not playing at your best. Same injury, I had a hamstring injury. I don't think I played that week, but I wanted to push through. I thought I'd just tweaked it, it'll be fine by Saturday. My coach actually said, if you're not match fit, I don't want you as part of the squad, because you're not going to play as well. There's potential that you damage it and make it worse, and then actually you're hindering the squad because you've got to come off and that's a substitute, which is unnecessary.
And with those kind of niggly injuries as well, is you can get compensation injuries from that. So even a lad who I play with now, he tweaked his hamstring exactly the same. Tweaked his hamstring. I think he had a week off. Tried to return, but he was still playing up a little bit. Yeah. And then in that very game that he'd come back, he then tweaked his calf.
Because he's compensating?
Potentially. I'm not saying that cause effect, but
absolutely.
I definitely think it has a factor to play where, if his hamstring's not 100% and he's going to be maybe running on his toe a little bit more
Yeah.
because he doesn't want to.
Which your body isn't used to.
Which your body isn't used to, and you just overstrained it, and then he had another couple of weeks off after that.
Yeah.
So it's
So
one of
actually,
those.
you've given yourself an additional injury just because you've not fully recovered
And
from
you've
it.
got a bad hamstring and a bad calf. So it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I can completely see that because even when you get an injury yourself and you walk differently because you're limping, and then all of a sudden your foot hurts
Yeah.
because you're walking
hip
funny,
gets
or
tight,
your lower back's hurting.
Mm.
So playing a contact sport through an injury,
Yeah.
not the best idea.
But again, it's almost like catch-22. A lot of people know that they shouldn't play, or they know that it's going to put them at risk for a re-injury. But the pressure's still there.
The pressure is
it's
still
always
there.
going to be there,
And it's all about your priorities essentially, because if your like dependence, let's say you're semi-pro and you're getting a pay per play and you are dependent on that income, then that dependence for that money is going to outweigh you playing poorly and going to outweigh you playing through an injury, because you're just going to do it. But then equally you've got to think about the longevity, and if you are out 6 weeks because you've made it worse, then you're not going to get that paycheck anyway. It's difficult, isn't it? I think we're all aware of those pressures. I think we're just trying to highlight that they exist, and what we're recommending is making sure you are fully recovered and don't put that pressure on yourself. But it's easier said than done, isn't it?
I think a good bit of advice that I'd give, which I've done the exact same thing for some of the full-time lads over at RGC, is when you are returning from a bad injury where you've had a bit of time off, you might well have been doing your conditioning and whatever in the gym and on field and whatever, but match fitness and so on is different. So if you've had a bit of time off, don't play a full 80 in your first game back if you've had that time off,
Don't
because
play a full game, absolutely.
I would limit it to about 30 minutes.
Okay, see how it feels.
Because in the gym or whatever, it might feel good doing maximal efforts and whatever, but when you're doing maximal efforts when you're fatigued, and you're making hits and you're doing whatever, it's a different kind of intensity, it's a different kind of fitness, and so to play a full 80 after months and months off because you've done whatever,
your body's going to take a beating.
You're not going to feel great, and there's a chance that you can get re-injured. So it's better off, saying, okay, I'm going to limit myself to 30 minutes in this game, and then maybe the next game I can start upping it to 60 to 70 minutes, and then you can go.
It's a bit like anything, isn't it? Like even in your training programs, you don't start a training program and go full hog trying to hit a 1 rep max. Not unless you're testing.
You've got to condition yourself into it.
Yeah, exactly. Like everything is building, compounding to the point where you are at your optimal performance, and that's when you would test again. Your 1 rep max and things like that.
Exactly that.
So it's difficult. It is difficult. You should recover effectively. Make sure you're applying those, processes that we discussed in a previous episode. But it's that psychological side and making sure you're not forcing yourself back on the field before you need to. There was something else I was going to say. It's evaded me. It's going to come back by the time we end this episode.
It is, yeah. I think one thing that I do, hopefully I'll come back to you, but one thing I do want to say, just for a bit of a laugh, is for those that aren't rugby players or don't have anything to do with contact sport, is just list the injuries that we've had so far in our career.
Go on.
Because it'd be silly, I reckon.
Go on. Should we go from head down or bottom to top?
Let's do bottom to top.
Okay. So I've this season got what's it called, plantar fasciitis.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty bad. It's been giving me jip. Everything I do, even when I think it's rested, I'll go and do some sprint training, and boom, straight after that, done. I think it was pushing the sled.
Yeah.
Right. So that's my foot. Any foot for you? Any foot fetishes?
My ankle's made of glass.
Yeah.
I've had syndesmosis in both.
I've rolled my ankle. That put me out for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. They're niggly ones as well, aren't they? Because as soon as you roll it, and then you can be walking around and you think, oh yeah, it's starting to get better, and then you fucking half fall off of a curb or whatever, and then it's like,
Nothing to do with rugby.
Yeah.
Any others?
No, just syndesmosis, I think.
Nice. I've not torn a calf. Have you?
No, nothing on calves.
I've tweaked my hammy. I've definitely torn some tissue in my knee. Not badly. I've been quite fortunate with my knees, but like, you know, when you just get like a bit of a meniscal tear and you're like, that's not 100%.
Yeah.
Definitely done that. Any knees for you?
I've ruptured my MCL.
Fully
Ruptured.
What?
Yeah, so
How long did that put you up for?
I was in a a leg brace right from my ankle right up to my hip. That put me out for a long time. I can't remember. I don't want to put a time on it because I can't actually remember.
Over a year?
No, not a year. I think
Over 6 months.
Yeah. But that was badass. And I was
Touch wood. I've not done anything with my knee.
They're not nice ones.
No, whenever someone does it, make me feel gammy.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrible. Dead legs.
Yeah.
They don't really count, do they?
I've pulled my pulled my hammy before. That was quite a long time ago.
And then moving up, done anything? Groinal?
Hips have always been okay, actually.
Yeah, mine too. Touch wood. I've done, I'd say moving up, let's go hands. I've done, currently my wrists quite a few times. Thumb, dislocated that last week. That hurts a lot. What about you? Anything?
My hands, dislocated my middle knuckle, which is considerably fatter than the other side. Dislocated my knuckle, broke my knuckle, so my dislocated one was there, so my finger was off like that. This knuckle I'd broken, and it kept, the socket had broken, so my finger actually kept going out of it.
That's a horrible Halloween trick.
I know, yeah. Dislocated. I think that's it, and then sprained wrists.
Sprained wrists. They're part and parcel, aren't they?
Yeah, that's...
Nothing elbow for me, but I've done my shoulders several times, whether that's like, I don't know, a bit of an AC joint or trapped nerves in like your neck.
Yeah.
I had one where I literally couldn't lift my arms above here.
Yeah.
Several times. Back's been alright, I think.
Mine has.
Is it not?
Yeah, I've hyperextended my elbow.
Oh, that's great.
Dislocated both of my shoulders.
Can you tell I'm not good with injuries? I get a bit.
Yeah, you're like, oh.
Yeah, no.
I'm like, sick of this shit. Dislocated both of my shoulders. My right one, when I was at university, I was playing twice a week, and it dislocated twice a week. It was ridiculous. Like sublux, I could go out and back in every single game.
Nah.
Shattered my collarbone, so that's like got a metal plate in it now. My back, I've had slip discs many times.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but that's a posture.
Oh, how's your nose?
It's fine. It's straight.
You didn't break your nose, you're lying.
No, I did.
Did you?
Yeah. It was like really crunchy and horrible. Yeah. But it would just.
How does yours look like that? Blood. And mine looks like this.
Yeah. That's twice now as well.
Hang on. Is it straight from there, guys?
Because it's not when you look straight on. Like a banana.
It is like a banana. Yeah, I broke that 3 times now. Yeah. Nice. That's why you play on the wing, isn't
it? Yeah.
One thing, so it has come back to me what I was going to say, but when you're returning from injury, the best piece of advice I can get is work with a professional, a medical professional, a physio, essentially, because they will tell you, they will give you the step-by-step exercises to make sure you're progressing and getting fitter, but they will also tell you when you're match fit, or any decent physio will anyway, and if they're not decent, you shouldn't be working with them. But they will let you know the duration of how long you're roughly going to have off in terms of the recovery and, you know, getting back together. But if you're working with them through the exercises and your progressions, then they will tell you when you're fit. They'll tell you exactly, like you said, right, you can play, but I think you should only be playing 30 minutes today. I know the physio back at Chester, Vicky, was very good at that. She would
Yeah.
say, "You're not playing," or
Yeah.
"I think you can play, but you should play, you
I
know,
rated her
half
as
a game."
physio.
She was
Yeah.
fantastic, really good. But you know, that's an experienced physio compared to an unexperienced physio. And sometimes when you're in those organisations where it's, you know, big professional companies, there is the pressure from the top and the management, those paying the bills, to put pressure on the physios to tell them that they can play. And actually, it's the medical professional's job to make sure that they do a duty of care to look after their clients. So if you work for like not work for, but if you play for like a grassroots sort of team and they don't have a physio, maybe go privately if you have injured yourself.
It's so worth it.
Yeah, absolutely, because you don't want to do it again and put yourself out, but you also don't want to turn it into a career-ending injury.
I think getting insurance isn't a bad idea.
Do you?
Yeah.
Would you say it's worth it?
I mean, to be honest,
You're what's it called? Self-employed.
yeah,
So for you, I can imagine insurance is quite a big thing.
yeah.
For
Well,
someone
yeah.
like me who works for the NHS, if I get injured,
Yeah,
even though it's through rugby, I think I'm still fully funded
yeah,
at work. So
yeah.
it all depends on your personal circumstance. But
Mm.
as you just said, you'd think it's worth it because you are
yeah.
self-employed.
Yeah, I mean, I've got insurance for my clients, and I think both through me, but I need to check. But to be honest, I've always been fortunate to be in rugby academies or whatever that have that as standard anyway.
Yeah, as part of the membership.
Yeah, as part of it. So, but I think I need to do that again. 'Cause
That's another thing. Pay your memberships if you are part of a team, because chances are you will have insurance through that. Most teams cover all their players under the membership costs. So if you haven't paid your membership, you're probably not covered. There you are, and it's just morally wrong. Anyway,
yeah, and support the club. Come on,
support the club. Support your local club. Anyway, should we round off there? Have you got anything else to add?
Yeah, I think just ultimately you're going to make your own decision about whether you're right to play or not.
Yeah.
But
Your
I
big boys
think
and girls.
you big boys and girls, you should be able to, work it out for yourself. But just think about, in your career in depending on, where you are in your career, but in 5 years' time, are you going to regret the decision about playing early if you get re-injured?
Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I think that,
And if you are early in your career and it's a bad injury, you've still got the rest of your career ahead of you.
For the sake of 2 weeks or 2 games, if you think, I'm still not feeling 100%, for the sake of 2 games, if you fuck it and
you're out for another year,
and you're out for another year, then
exactly,
it's probably not worth it.
I agree. Nice. Anyway, we'll catch you next time.
Look after yourselves.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci.